Her fiction, translation, film, and music have appeared in the Encyclopedia Project, Pocket Myths, Tarpaulin Sky, Einen Magazine über Orte, and is that right? And a chapbook, comes out next week, perhaps, with the corresponding society. So here is Popahna Brandis.
Yes,
red
of course.
curtain there? Thank you.
Nellie, that was ridiculous to say all that because thank you, but now I feel a little pressure.
No.
Thank you for the first two readings. They were great.
Yeah.
It was really good to hear you. Do I have to use the microphone?
No.
What do you think?
You don't.
No? Okay. So I'm going to read from a novel that I'm almost done with. I mean, I'm done in terms of I reached the end, but I'm not done with the editing of it. And this is good because I haven't tried to say what it's about before, and so I'm going to do that really briefly because people have asked me, and I get so irritated with that question. I mean, read it. But because there are a lot of things that take place in it, and it's not orderly, and it's not very causal, and I mean there is some violence, there isn't any sex really, and so there are a lot of things that take place in it, but what it's about is I said it's about being a visitor. Or reflecting, trying to be a visitor to my own mind, hopefully. A sort of reflection of that. And it's ostensibly and structurally about the hide and seek of the subject and the interlocutor. And it's about the relationship between writing and speaking in writing, within writing, speaking within writing. There is a 20-page prologue, and there's a 50-page epilogue, and it's not that long a novel. I guess what I'm saying is that the structure stages some of the conflicts of the structure stages the conflicts of the piece more than perhaps the conflicts are enacted. So I think I'm just going to read from the beginning. I would like to read some other parts, but okay, one last thing I'll say is that the other parts are very different, but it would be really just jumping in, and I haven't figured out how to do that yet, so I'm just going to stick with this part from the prologue. Oh, and its working title is In an Eye. There is a lot about the eye, and but I'm not reading any of that section. But this title means in an eye, not this eye. Prologue. And the city closest to the town of Kas is the cultural capital that year, and in the heart of that city, bound on two sides by copses of large deciduous trees, on one side by an animal park sunk in gloom, the proprietary geese guarding the several pigs huddled by the keeper's house, and finally, on the last side, by a school for marching bands, which itself is flanked by several wooden houses selling soup, cheese, and cider, respectively, is the English-speaking Cultural Experimentation Society of the Lowlands, a state-sponsored laboratory where work goes on night and day. In the Society's buildings, there are cells that are called rooms, there are researchers that are called participants, and there are experiments that are described as funded life praxes. 13 participants are accepted into this society. They remain for indefinite periods of time, no less than a year and generally not longer than 7 years. Both the funders and the researchers prefer to disclose as little as possible on the subject of their experiments, or rather, and to put it more precisely, they prefer not to know the intended outcome. Their process is sanctified. The ways in which they reveal that they are working, that they are progressing, is by the showing of various objects and formulae, which are systematically, if erratically, placed on display in the corridors. The corridors being the main spaces where participants interact and exhibitions, intended or not, take place. These wide and fully window-lined hallways form the interior of the entire building, consisting of 4 wings in which the participants are housed, their cellular rooms lining the exterior of the building with a view onto that which lies outside. The transparent corridors form a square surrounding what, up until 40 years earlier, had been a central swimming pool and is currently filled with a pile of silt, 3 printing presses, a bookbinding apparatus, bed frames, tables, several dozen school children's chairs, many bicycles, and a mounded section the size of a tomb made up entirely of books, pulping and sprouting a haze of delicate lady's thumb and tough knots of horseweed. In this pool fill, the items have fallen or been ordered into some sculptural and practical arrangement, the primary goal being to create a comfortable smoking area. From any one of the perches, as is true from every point within the first 2 levels of the tall corridors, all activity within the corridors and the pool garden can be seen at all times from every vantage point. It is only parts of the top floor, the 3rd floor, and the stairwells that are not visible. This is where participants might disappear from view if they happen to be alone as they are ascending or descending. It is also where many of them choose to exercise, running up and down when they